All right, guys. Well, we are in the next portion of our show. Tonight we have a special guest with us that we're super excited to have on. A new, exciting esports events that are hitting the wave, kind of in the Midwest. So I have with me Connor. Connor, what's going on, man?
How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, no problem. What's going on?
Not much, man.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much, man. Like I was saying, that obviously our guests have no idea who this Connor guy is. So first off, why didn't you just introduce yourself, man? Who are you, and what do you work for?
Yeah, definitely. My name's Connor Olney. I currently live in Iowa City, Iowa, and I'm currently the owner and CEO of a company called the National College Gaming Association.
Okay, cool. Well, anyways, yeah. So the National College Gaming Association. What exactly does that entail? And we'll kind of go more in depth. But obviously, we have a lot of listeners that aren't into the esports world. So kind of just a brief. We can go in depth later, but just a brief. What exactly is that?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll give a little introduction to esports as well then.
Yeah.
Basically, the market right now for esports is absolutely huge. You're seeing, companies like UMG and MLG that host these $1 million tournaments for a various amount of games, and these winners are walking away with a ton of money, and it's kind of generated a lot of buzz. But kind of what people don't realize is that with the growth, there has been a ton of problems in the esports market, particularly being with how players grow in esports and get to that level because they see these players, making a ton of money at these tournaments. They want to be just like them. They think they need to, spend $1,000 to go into a tournament and compete. When in reality, that's really backwards thinking because why would you want to spend that kind of money when you've never even competed before, or even know that you're good enough,
Yeah.
So
Right.
that kind of idea is where the National College Gaming Association came from and sort of fits in. So basically, we host tournaments at different colleges across the country at either very low or free cost to the players to allow them to come out and compete and actually see if they're good enough to gain the experience and to be able to grow before they have to make such a huge investment in, a career in gaming.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And when I saw this, that hit home for me, man, because and we had a conversation earlier this week, but for our listeners, I was just talking to Connor about, back in 2009, I competed at a competitive level at the Iowa Pro Gaming Challenge that happened in Des Moines. And even at that event, my team was having to pay an entry fee. I think it was like almost $200 to get in this tournament, and like the grand pot at that time was roughly about $5,000. But even for a $5,000 pot, you had I think there was almost 60 teams at this event, and each of us paying $200 was just absolutely ridiculous at that time, and especially because I had no sponsors at the time. It was literally we paid out of pocket, and on top of that, one of my teammates even came from Ohio, so we were all pitching in for his plane ticket. It just got crazy expensive and ended up going nowhere that year. And obviously, without sponsors, we did end up winning a couple turns later on. But the issue came to even winning a tournament here and there, it didn't justify the cost at the end, which really, like you said, is kind of backwards. You're dumping all this money yourself. And then at the back end,
Right.
where's this supposed sponsorship that you see, big teams like Team Optic and all these other big names that are out there, and they're just doing absolutely amazing. And then you win a tournament, and you're like, all right, cool, bring on the sponsors, and it's the crickets chirping.
Yeah,
So,
nothing there.
so no, that's really cool, man. Well, cool. Well, so now we kind of know more about esports and kind of what the NCGA is all about. Why don't you just tell about a little bit about your history, man? How did you get to this point where you, presented this opening avenue for just more amateur gamers, and kind of the college level? Kind of your background. What got you, or what made you decide to kind of start this?
Yeah, definitely. So really, it kind of goes back in school, studying entrepreneurship. I had a company that was a clothing company actually, and so that's kind of where business started for me, was doing clothing. However, while I was doing it, I found myself very frequently turning to my Xbox to play for hours on end to clear my mind because I wasn't really liking the clothing. And so I actually had an Xbox set up in my office. So when I wasn't doing the clothing, I was playing online just to do something for fun or to kind of clear my mind because I really loved business and I thought that was kind of where I was going with it. But yeah, very frequently I was just turning to Xbox. So over one break, I was playing Xbox with some of my friends, and I was watching an MLG event, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. I should do that. So I reached out to my friends. I started looking up tickets. I started researching how to get into it, and I realized like, okay, well, yeah, the team pass is 320. Okay, plane tickets 500. The hotel is 200 a night. I was like, I can't do this.
Oh yeah.
And so I got really frustrated, and I just kind of started brainstorming, and I turned to my mentor that I had for my clothing company. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and I told him about the problem I was having. And over the course of about a month or so, we shaped out this idea for the National College Gaming Association. Don't let these kids have this problem. It's basically what my mentor is saying. Fix this problem. And so yeah, over the course of a couple months, we started nailing down this business, this new business model of not having these high entry fees, offering it for free, and relying on colleges and teams and sponsors to pick up the cost for them. A sponsor is a lot more likely to give money to a business who are hosting events than to an amateur team. So we can take that money and then distribute it so that these teams can compete for free.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
That's a
So
unique take on that.
and I know Chris, you probably has questions with that, but so you're saying that you guys kind of more rely on just kind of more business and sponsorship to be able to help fund your company, or are you guys at this point just kind of more self-funding at the moment until you kind of get more big with the NCGA?
Yeah, we're actually in a very unique kind of transition period right now. In the beginning, I had stopped my clothing company. I used all the money I had saved up from that clothing company, as well as additional savings and a credit card at one point to get it going. It's finally getting to a point where we have money coming in, and we don't really need to rely on my bank account anymore. And
Nice.
yeah, we're starting to be able to grow. We have a pretty solid team now, and it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
It's good to hear.
Well, thanks.
I got to ask right here. This is the one question I wanted to ask, and you went into entrepreneurship, which is exactly where I wanted to go in with this. With us starting this Salt and Light here, I've been telling people about what we do with Salt and Light. They always give me this funny look. You make money with video games? Do you get that too?
Yeah, I have kind of a funny story if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Go for it, man.
One of the biggest places I get this is especially with the older generation. They don't really understand it as much. They didn't grow up with it. And so one of the things I did initially to start this company is what we call pitch competitions. You have like business model competitions, business plan competitions. And basically what that is you're pitching to a group of entrepreneurs and investors, and you're telling them this idea, how you're making money, all the stuff that you're doing in hopes that they're going to give you money. I've done quite a few of them. There was at least two of them where I was very confident going into it. I walk in, there was and nothing against it, but there's like an 80-year-old lady there. There was, two old men, and then there was one young guy. And
Nice.
so I was like, I need to appeal to this guy, right? And so I pitched it, went really well, practiced it to a T, and literally for the first 30 seconds after I got it done, they all stopped and were just, so kids come out and watch you play video games? Like, they didn't listen to a single thing I said. They were just completely mind blown that kids come out and play a video game. And then the one guy that I thought I was appealing to was actually like, well, I'm actually like nothing against it. I was actually vegan for a little bit. He was like, I'm a vegan, I'm really into humanity, and I don't really like the idea of shooting people. And so not a single one of them bought into the idea at all. It was absolutely terrible. But so I run into that problem quite a bit.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
So were you?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
At least you weren't doing the big buck hunter competition.
Out to that, I gave him a gun, and yeah.
We heart our PETA fans.
Yeah, but I think the best way around it is just to share kind of the positive side effects to it. The discipline, the focus, the teamwork. The aspects to it that maybe they don't understand, but they understand that. They understand, the dedication it takes, the teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's I'm finding it fairly easy to start convincing people of, esports and gaming as a career.
Well, cool.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Well, and I always explain to people, and I was kind of playing more competitively. It's to like my grandpa even. I was like, I asked him like, "Do you consider paintball a sport?" And he sat there for a second. He was like, it's kind of a sport. It involves guys running around shooting each other. I'm like, boom, there you go.
It's fun.
It's guys running around shooting each other.
Yep.
Just with a controller.
If-
So.
If there's
Wait.
money in it, somebody
Yeah.
will make it a sport.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. That's really awesome, man. That's really cool, actually, to hear that. You should definitely, I'll have to shoot you the information, but I know down here in Kansas City, we actually have a massive entrepreneur event that goes on weekly down here.
Awesome.
So, and there's probably a good 200 to 400 different entrepreneurs that go every week. So you could probably come down here and make some waves with that, pitching that idea.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
So I'll have to shoot you that on the side. But anyways, going back to just the gaming. So obviously we kind of got the history. Super exciting to hear about this new idea. I mean, honestly, that's what we need, and at least especially in the Midwest. I think that's a area that's really weak is just kind of the idea of LAN tournaments. I feel like we saw a lot of it with Halo 2. I think was the big one that was kind of making waves about 10 years ago. And after that died, it's still kind of there every once in a while, but let's be honest, it's hitting more of the major cities at this point with, MLG. And like you said, is it UMG? Is that the name that they call it now?
Yeah, it's another major one.
Yep. So, and I think I actually attended one of those events a long time ago when they were small. But cool. But anyways, so what games specific for the NCGA will you guys be focusing on?
So the main college gaming series is what we call the series. It's a 5-stop series, and the main 2 games are Xbox-based Call of Duty and Halo. And going forward, we started experimenting with Super Smash Brothers, and it's looking like that's definitely going to work its way into the rest of the year this year and from there on.
So I do have a question. Since you do Xbox now, both my co-hosts here, they know that Chris and Tim know I'm a huge Xbox guy, but
Just a
knowing-
little bit.
But knowing
Just
how-
a little
He has a
bit.
bias.
But knowing how MLG's going with PS4 and everything, is that something you guys are going to consider down the road, or are you guys going to kind of stick to your guns with the Xbox console?
Yeah, when the timing was impeccable. When they announced their partnership with Sony and PlayStation, it was literally, I want to say a week, if not less, after we just spent a ton of money on Xboxes. So this year we didn't really have a choice. Like we could have traded them in for half the money and just took like a $3,000 hit, which
Gotcha.
would have not been smart. So yeah, we stuck with the Xboxes, and kind of what we found is a lot of people were happy that we did that. I don't think a lot of people like the switch to PlayStation, and so even the fact that we're doing tournaments with Xbox gives them, if they don't want to play PS4, they now have an option to play Xbox. So I think we're going to stick with that for as far as I can see.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I was telling my guys, I know that Tim's a big PS4 guy, but looking at contracts aside, I mean, what were pro gamers for Call of Duty specifically playing in the last 10 years? Since, what was it, 2008 with Modern Warfare, they've been playing on Xbox.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I think Black Ops, they played PS3, and then it
Oh, they did? Okay, you're
Xbox.
right. So they did go 1 year on that. But besides that one game, yeah, you're right about that. It's basically Xbox based. So I know that even I think I read a blog from one of the I think Matthew Haag, Nate Shot. I remember when they first made the announcement, he wasn't too excited about that. But obviously, like we've said, those guys are all big shots, and so they're all sponsored. So they're going to do whatever their sponsors want them to. So if you go to their page now, they'll blast PS4 like it's nothing on their page. So you can't even believe social media with them.
I think it's my
'Cause you're
favorite
just
thing in the world.
Yeah, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
not even a year ago, you said you hated that
It's
idea.
like, wait, how big's that check? Yeah, dude, I love PS4. What?
Yeah, exactly.
The best.
They probably even have the modded setup to where they can still use their Xbox controllers on the PS4.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, cool, man. So we got those games, and I know you briefly mentioned the potential Super Smash Brothers. What are obviously with you said you guys bought Xbox Ones. What is the potential of with Super Smash Brothers? Are you guys going to be branching out to the Nintendo Wii U with the new Super Smash, or what are you guys kind of focusing on with that game?
Yeah, so that's one of the really difficult parts about it and why I'm hesitant to say it's part of the series is
Okay,
because part of our business model has always been that we want kids just to show up, that we provide all the equipment and stuff so they don't have
hmm,
to worry about that. And
gotcha.
it's just not in the budget to buy Wii U's right now, unfortunately. And so we're running a Melee tournament for our upcoming event, and
Okay.
it's basically um, people are we're networking with people that already have the systems and they're willing to bring them out. And
Hmm.
so I don't really like that.
Yeah.
It works for now, but definitely as far as next year, if we're going to keep it in there, we want to go ahead and get all the equipment and just be able to have that for everyone to make it easier.
Yeah.
Well,
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 it'd be a lot cheaper to buy a bunch of Game Cubes as well than buy a Wii U.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the problem is the discs, man. The discs are super expensive. They're like
That's a fair
collector's
point.
items now.
oh,
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, they're difficult to come by. If you can find one, sometimes people find them for like $5 at the garage sale and go and sell
Yeah.
them today for like 150. Like it's crazy.
hmm.
Fair point there. So yeah.
I
No, it's still
was.
cool. Go
I
ahead,
was
Chris.
I was gonna say that you picked the right Super Smash Brothers for your tournament. That
Oh
is
yeah,
the best one. Melee was the best one.
you gonna make the drive up then?
My work won't allow it, so
Oh, come on. You don't work on a Saturday.
no. But I'm busy with other stuff.
That's all good.
Gotcha.
Brush up on your wave dashing or whatever that was called.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, so we know the games, we got the history. So tell us kind of about, I know we're gonna have some listeners that are probably listening right now, that are gonna be at these events. Or maybe now you guys, we've spiked some of our listener interest that maybe want to hit some of these tournaments. I know mainly you're in the Midwest, and kind of north, north a little bit. Tell us about some upcoming events. I know we got a big one at the end of the month, and some just through the spring here. So just hit us up with the events, and then we can go further from there.
Yeah, definitely. So at the end of the month, January 29th and 30th, will be our event called NCGA Ames. It'll take place at the ISU campus in Ames, Iowa. And that's obviously the closest. That's the one we're testing out Melee in. From there, we are going to Champaign, Illinois, on the campus of UIUC, University of Illinois, Champaign, Urbana. And that event is locked down for February 27th. From there, we are going up to Minnesota, up in the Minneapolis area. And we don't have an exact date or anything on that one, but that will be happening at the end of March, probably right after spring break. And then going into April, we're going down to Missouri and checking out St. Louis. And again, that date is not locked down, but it'll be right around the end of April. And then that kind of concludes the 5 stops and brings us to our national championship, which will take place in Des Moines, Iowa, at the end of the school year in May.
Cool, man. Well, if you guys do that in the middle of May, we might have to make it down there. Says I graduate May, so I might have to go there for a party, man. We'll head it up with you.
Yeah, dude, I'll invite
So-
you out, get you a VIP pass. We'll have a good time, man.
Yeah. So we'll talk further on that, man. I would love to do that. Seriously. Especially because that's my home turf, man. So I grew up in Des Moines.
Oh, I
So-
didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and I grew up in Ankeny, especially. So,
Oh, okay.
but cool. Yeah. So, okay. So we got the tournament season. So you were kind of briefly just talking about, I know you kind of already briefly summed it with the whole system with how the tournament's laid out with, depending on how we line up, you're going to have the teams you're going to pay to come out to Des Moines. For our listeners and for those who are going to be competing in these tournaments, kind of give us a brief summary of just how this point system works. Because I know social media, you're kind of limited. So just give us an overall summary, man, so that people kind of can get the heads up and kind of prepare themselves for this season.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, what I hadn't kind of said yet is with our business model for these events being free or nearly free, that doesn't allow for a prize pool. So kids that are coming out are doing it for the experience, for the exposure, to kind of get that confidence in a LAN setting. And we also give out tournament points. So it's a 5-stop series. Tournament points are awarded to the top 3 teams at 80 points, 60 points, and 40 points for first, second, and third. Those points then continue throughout the series. For every stop you make, if you place, you get more points. And the way those points work is they add up, and going into our national championship at the end of the series, the teams with the most points, the top 8 teams, I'm sorry, with the most points then get a free trip out. We pay for their trip. They get free entry into our national events. On top of that, we just finished actually our ranking system. It's a rather complicated algorithm based off of different in-game, things like score per minute, KD, depending on what you're playing. And what that'll do is that every player that comes through our events will then be ranked. So going into the national championship and they're out, we'll have a list of who the best players were at the time. And then what we'll do is we'll send that list out to gaming companies and gaming clubs for people that are looking for new players. We can go to them and say, the top 3 Call of Duty players that we found are these kids. You should give them a shot, to really allow the better players to have the opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's
like
really...
you're really giving people a chance to kind of get their name out, give it a trial run.
That's the main idea behind them, is definitely to give them the experience, give them the exposure, and if they're good enough, they're going to shine, they're going to get the points, and we'll be able to help them from there.
And I think that's something you've needed for a long time, because you go and watch MLG Network now, and I'm sure you've watched it before, where you see the same faces, the same names, and they just kind of really, the teams aren't really changing rosters per se. They do change the rosters quite frequently, but it's the same pool of players in the whole game battles MLG section. Because I know MLG's gotten to the point where they do a new season and they do a draft mode, and it's their way of refitting the teams depending on how they can pull people, but it's the same people.
Right.
So I think this will be, if this can blow up with the college level, this might actually be a really cool way to kind of create. You might see recruiters at your event in the future where they're
that's definitely the goal.
Sitting there kind of just, kind of watching people and figuring out, oh, dude, that dude, that's who we want, that sniper on our team, or we want that guy. So that's really cool how that's set up to kind of give the people the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And it's in our plans to hold the first ever college draft for esports. So stay tuned for that.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Probably
Awesome.
not this year, but the year after, we definitely are already starting to try to kind of put something together for that, so that kids do get that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you'll have to kind of keep us updated, and might have to bring it back on to kind of give some updates on that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, cool, man. Well, seriously, I'm blown away with this idea. Just the overall company. It sounds absolutely awesome for just a startup business, and I'm really excited to hear how things turn out for you with this.
Thank you so much.
And lastly, before we go, Tim, Chris, do you guys have any just questions off the whim, or Connor, if you had anything that you thought of last minute you guys wanted to bring up? Do you guys have anything?
I was thinking, I'm a pretty big Blizzard fan on PC, and with Overwatch coming out and then bringing it out on the Xbox One as well, I guess it really depends on how much of a market it gets. But have you thought about that one yet as a possibility?
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware that it was coming to Xbox One.
Oh yeah, yep.
So that's interesting. Yeah, we always research new games and kind of what's being popular, what's coming up. As far as this series, we're pretty locked down on it, just because we don't want to add a new game.
Yeah.
3 stops in, that wouldn't be fair, because then just whoever wins, it goes to the championship. Like that would kind of defeat the point. But for next year, yeah, we are comprising games and lists, and maybe we'll put that on our radar. We definitely do want to get into the PC world as well. It's like I said, it's a very hefty investment, but it's definitely on the list. So really, it really depends on how the rest of the series goes, how successful it is, and kind of what the budget is for next year, how many games we can add to the series.
Well, I will tell you, and this is just because I'm a big Hearthstone guy. Since you've listened to some of our shows, you just need 2 iPads and 1 computer. That's all you need. So you
James
can
wants to come
spectate.
over and clean sweep the Hearthstone.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
let's do it. I'll come over there.
Maybe
and
I'll
sweep.
have you take lead on the Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Well-
So, but cool, man. Well, seriously, can't thank you enough for getting on our show. I know we kind of started talking early this week and kind of made this happen pretty quick. But seriously, we're excited to hear what happens for our listeners. If any of you have questions for Connor about this event, you can email us at saltandlightgaming@gmail.com. Or Connor, is there a good email that they can send you any replies if they have any questions about your events or just anything in general about your company?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're available online. If you go to our website, it's officialncga.com. You can drop us a message there. We'll always respond within 24 hours. Other than that, you can tweet us. Again, it's at officialncga. We're pretty active on Twitter and social media as well. So yeah, feel free to drop by, ask any questions, and we'll get back to you really soon.
There you go.
All right, cool.
I do have one question.
Oh,
all
yeah, go for it.
All of our listeners should probably know this question is coming up. Rocket League. Have you heard of it? And is there any interest in it?
Yeah, honestly, I was one of the first people to say that needs to be an esport.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was literally like right after it came out. I saw just randomly someone playing it, and what came to my mind, with this business, idea in the background is it would be a perfect game for high school gaming clubs to compete in and get into the scene.
Exactly.
If I had the time, I would love to host high school tournaments of Rocket League. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think that it would make a very great spectator. You could do a lot of cool stuff with it. So definitely on the list for next year.
That's the same thing I thought. I was telling these guys here that this is a game everybody understands this. Soccer and cars. You don't have to you have to know what's going on with Call of Duty or Halo. With Rocket League, you kind of don't.
It's very true. You could do like an entire like virtual field too. Like there's so much cool stuff that you can do with it.
could.
Like
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
and the
I'm
cool
on board
thing
with
is you already got the equipment because I think here in a month or two they're finally pushing it to Xbox One. So
yeah, I heard
Right.
that.
so you'll have it, man. Maybe you can squeeze it into your championship, just a mock Rocket League tournament.
Yeah, maybe we'll set it up just for fun.
That'll be your Friday
Hmm.
night Super Smash event instead of Super Smash do Rocket League.
Well,
Oh,
looks
I'll
like,
think about it.
looks like I got some practicing to do for next year.
Yeah, man. You got a year, dude. So, all right, Connor. Well, seriously, thank you so much for hopping on. Hope you have an awesome night, man.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you guys so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.